veteran players like Kyren Williams, DJ Moore, and Jared Goff get ignored during this time of the offseason, but they deserve to be talked about. So we are going to discuss the fantasy outlook of the forgotten ones on today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm one of your co-hosts, Michelle Magdziuk, and when I'm not doing this, I'm a researcher and fantasy analyst with the NFL Network.
And I'm your other co-host, Vinnie Iyer, and I'm not doing this. I'm writing about NFL, fantasy, and betting for sportingnews.com.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. All right, on today's show, I know at this time of the year, it's very exciting to talk about the younger players, the rookies, the second-year players, any guys changing teams. But then there's a big group of guys that we just don't really hit on very much in March and April, and these players are going to be very impactful for fantasy next year, one way or another. Either they're going to be bad picks or really good picks at value. So we're going to go through those players that are kind of getting ignored right now at each position with running backs, wide receivers, and quarterbacks. Let's start at the running back position. And I think Kyren Williams gets overlooked far too often. It was last year too, but he's just not really that super exciting player, right? He doesn't give you monster numbers as a receiver. And this past year, he was still very good. Running back 7 overall, running back 8 in points per game. That dropped down a little bit from his running back 2 in points per game in the year prior. But he's only 24 years old. He will be 25 in late August. But what are your thoughts on Kyren Williams moving forward, Vinny?
Yeah, I'm one of those people that tend to forget Kyren Williams. I know you're a big fan of Kyren Williams, and you should be. He's pretty consistent. He's in a good offense with a good offensive line and Sean McVay, and that can score points. And he's going to be fine. I think the question that we always have, and it always happens with these later drafted, in reality, running backs, right? When are the wheels going to fall off? Why were they drafted late? Are they not durable? We're thinking about that with Isaiah Pacheco right now. It happened with like a Dameon Pierce type. So we're always expecting someone to come in there with a bigger pedigree. And last year, they added Blake Corum from the national champion Michigan Wolverines, who was the heart and soul of that backfield in Ann Arbor. So I thought, oh, yeah, he's going to lose his job to Blake Corum, or he's going to push him, or they're going to be equal. But that didn't materialize. It took a while for Corum to get in the mix of the offense, and they trusted Kyren Williams pretty much as the workhorse. Now, this year it could be a little different, but I don't think the Rams like to deviate that much from what works, right? I mean, that's the thing. With Sean McVay's past, you've also had Todd Gurley in a window that worked for a while. Then you had to roll to these other guys like a Cam Akers or Darrell Henderson because he just had to. There was no one there to stabilize. So I think Kyren Williams has given them some confidence. I don't know if you can wear him down with 25 carries. The receptions part hurts a little bit. I think there's enough backs that could ascend. But I think if you're looking at a picture of a solid RB2 definition, I would think Kyren Williams is it right now. I wouldn't go nuts again. You know, the receptions, when you go half and full point PPR, he has less appeal. But as we go standard, he's definitely a solid back to have.
Yeah, he really just is. He's going to get the touches. 81% of the team's offensive snaps last year, by far the most among running backs. 70% of their carries, by far the most in the league. The next closest was Bijan Robinson at 61%. So his touches are just so consistent. The thing is, if the touchdowns ever go away, because he's had 15 and 16 the last 2 years, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Yeah. But the Rams should be scoring plenty of touchdowns this next year. Now, next running back I wanted to hit on was Alvin Kamara. Still last year at 29 years old, he is the running back 6 in points per game at 16.5 points per game. And it's not like he did it with a bunch of touchdowns. He only had 6 rushing touchdowns, 8 scrimmage touchdowns, but still was targeted highly, was pretty much the only back that got work. And it's not like, it doesn't seem like Henry Miller is going to be a thing, right? So yeah, he turns 30 in July, but at this time, it doesn't really look like anything's changing for his role.
Yeah, and we'll see what Kellen Moore can do. And we know Kellen Moore just produced the top running back in fantasy because he handed the ball to Saquon Barkley a ton of times. Now he's got an older back right now. I mean, Saquon was getting there, but not where Alvin Kamara is with his mileage. And I think the receptions really hurt or really help Alvin Kamara, right? What you might not get in the running game because his team may not be that great. Like an interesting offense, right? They came out of the gate with Clint Kubiak last year. They were gangbusters, scoring more than 40 points. And then the injuries started to settle in, and we didn't get a good look at the combination that they had. Then Kubiak has moved on to Seattle. So now we have Kellen Moore there, rebooting in an offense. Derek Carr trying to come back. Chris Olave trying to come back. We're not sure if Taysom Hill is going to be incorporated in this at all, right? I mean, he might be done. So then you look at that, and that's a person that has been a thorn in the side of Alvin Kamara in terms of producing, right? He can steal the rushing yards, he can steal the touchdowns. So if he's not in the picture, and they kind of are worried about the receiving core, right? I mean, Shaheed went down, Olave is a question mark. So again, I think you'll see a lot of checkdowns and a lot of volume from Alvin Kamara. I think his defense is also about to take a step back. It's been kind of overextended. So there's a lot of reasons to think he can be the 60 reception guy again. And those are easy. I mean, that's 30 points and a half point PPR right there to go there. That's the equivalent of 5 touchdowns. So if you get that, you're rolling. And then, yeah, he's just a guy that keeps on going. Every time we think he's going to wear down and break down, he's out there, and you got to hand it to him. He's played hurt in his career. He's fought through some stuff, but he's been a really good fantasy asset. I think Kellen Moore, Doug Nussmeier can pull out one more year out of him for us.
I do too. I think he has one more year in him, and then we might have to reevaluate. But he's been holding on strong, that's for sure. Another guy that's holding on strong, David Montgomery, right? We went into 2024 thinking Jahmyr Gibbs has to take over a little bit more. And although Gibbs did step up and have a huge fantasy season, David Montgomery actually scored more points per game in 2024 than in 2023. I mean, it was nearly identical, 14.2 to 14.6. But still, he did his thing both years. He only played 14 games, so missed 3 games each of those seasons. So injuries are a concern. But also with missing those 3 games, he still put up 25 rushing touchdowns over the last 2 years, 12 in 2024 and 13 in 2023. And you go through his game log, there's very few bad games. I mean, besides the week 15 game where he got hurt very early, there was only one game where he didn't score at least 11 fantasy points. And then that was only one game as well with 11 or 12. And then the rest are 14, 15, 16, like very, very consistent player. Now he will be 28 years old in June, but I do think David Montgomery will probably be overlooked. But then also your worry is no Ben Johnson. Will it still be a split backfield? Those are some concerns.
Yeah, we did the final 4 offenses, and you picked the Bengals as the best for fantasy. I picked the Eagles, but when we look at it, maybe we should have thought about the Lions a little bit more because they have a lot of depth and they have a lot of reliability. Like Michelle mentioned, like you know what you're going to get, right? In certain games, if they're going to be ahead and they're near the goal line, it's going to be David Montgomery or Jahmyr Gibbs benefiting from that. You know what you're going to get from Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Jameson Williams. You know what the roles are on this offense. And now, yeah, Ben Johnson's gone, but why would you mess with what's worked, right? This is a good split they've had. So I think it's one of those things is just move it along, right? I know you can have the drop-off. We did see that with the Eagles when they had that down year between Kellen Moore and Shane Steichen. Like you may not call them exactly. You may have favorites in terms of the personnel you get in there, but you also have Dan Campbell overseeing some of this stuff. And he wants to run the ball and put away teams. He's an offensive guy himself, former tight end. So I think he's going to say, hey, we need to give David the ball enough here to take pressure off Jahmyr Gibbs, take pressure off Jared Goff. Their offense is based on power running play action for Jared Goff to throw downfield to get those deep shots to Jameson Williams. So they need David Montgomery powering through between the tackles, taking pressure off Gibbs for many reasons. So look, and the good thing about Montgomery, like we worry about backs getting older, getting in a split backfield, it really reduces your workload and wear and tear. So you get a few more years and carries in there. So I like David Montgomery quite a bit. Again, the touchdowns always worry you. Will they dry up here? They dried up, of course, for Jamal Williams. He was there before him, and then New Orleans didn't work out. but he's not Jamal Williams. He's a much more talented back. He was the lead back for the Bears, putting up numbers. So he's basically a lead back getting the benefit of a split, and I think that continues here.
I do as well. And maybe that makes us a little disappointed for Jahmyr Gibbs as like the 101 option or like the running back 1 overall, but they're still both going to be great. We're going to move over to some wide receivers that are forgotten about, including DJ Moore, who will now be working with Ben Johnson, who we talked about David Montgomery losing. We'll get into the wide receivers right after we take a quick break.
All right, I'd like to welcome a new sponsor into Locked On Fantasy Football. It's Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting with them with the top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands or project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes it hiring simple and affordable for you. Finding the right talent is needed there for you, and they're going to take care of you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. You know that you're going to get that. It's fast and easy hiring. You want to be able to post a job free and simple. They allow you to do that. You can get a bunch of qualified candidates to choose from within one day. And this is cost-effective growth. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps you find affordable, top-tier freelancers, and that'll help you scale your business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork, UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today.
This episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is also brought to you by the Game Time app. Buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and the best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. I use this app all the time for multiple reasons, but I love that I get a view of my seat before I buy, so I know exactly what to expect when I arrive. There's no surprises. It's also a super easy and quick app to use, and I have zero patience, so that's fantastic. And then they have the best ticket coverage in the business in case anything goes wrong. They have event cancellation protection, 24-hour return guarantees, and even job loss assurance. You get to take the worries and the guessing work out of buying tickets with Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, let's continue our show today talking about the forgotten ones, the guys that are just barely talked about at this time of the year, but they're going to have a big impact for fantasy next year, so we have to talk about them. And we got to start here with DJ Moore. DJ Moore last year, we did expect him to fall from what he did in 2023, right? He was a wide receiver 6 overall. We did not expect him to repeat that with the extra targets that were added to the Bears, plus Caleb Williams as a rookie. But it was a really pretty bad year, right? Wide receiver 31 in points per game. He'll be 28 years old in April, so still plenty of time in his prime. If so, Keenan Allen's gone. What do you expect from DJ Moore with Ben Johnson, with Caleb Williams in a second year?
Yeah, it was a brutal year for DJ Moore last year. I mean, he was having good chemistry with Justin Fields. We know he blew up in that one game against the Commanders. They were really feeling it together. So I think he was a little bit hurt that they didn't try to bring Fields back. And then, okay, do I have to mentor this guy? And then there are questions about, did he want to play with a rookie quarterback? But I think there were a lot of factors there. I think Caleb Williams and Keenan Allen had a built-in relationship because of some time in Los Angeles they spent together. So definitely, I think Caleb kind of favored Keenan Allen. And I've seen this before with DJ Moore. Like, he wants to be the alpha. And if you treat somebody else like the alpha or connection, he kind of gets pouty and checks out of the game. And it was really hard to stay into the game with the Bears. But it's not going to be hard with Ben Johnson and a prospect of being a good team. Like, DJ Moore likes to be a front runner. He works hard. He goes out there and plays. And I think all these like mental things are going to add up to really good numbers this year. Again, he is the number one. He's going to get treated like that. He's going to get the Amon-Ra St. Brown treatment, except He can line up in multiple places here on the outside. They're going to feed him the ball a lot because Rome Odunze, look, it was kind of a wash of a rookie year, right? He was learning. They got him a few things, but this is essentially his first year, and then he's got to get a new offense down. So DJ Moore has to be the kind of the centering force of this passing game to get everything going. So, again, I really like the upside here. I think Moore is going to feel, hey, someone wants to get me the ball, and this offense really works after all this dysfunctional stuff. And the other thing, he's a big play guy at times. You protect Caleb Williams more. That's what he can do. Throw the ball downfield to DJ Moore on more occasions here. So all the things are lining up mentally, physically, schematically, everything you can look for DJ Moore. I think he has a big bounce back season, and I think you got to enjoy his fantasy value while people are down on him.
Yeah, I do think he's going to have a big bounce back season. I think Rome Odunze is going to be that guy that gets super hyped up this year, is expensive. He might even go before DJ Moore in some. Kate and I the other day just did a mock draft. Rome Odunze went in like the 5th round. And I'm high on Rome Odunze for this year, but DJ Moore is going to be the forgotten one here. I will say he still got 140 targets last year. That was more than what he had in 2023. The difference between 2023 and this last year was that he had a very outlier year in yards per reception in 2024, 9.9 yards per reception. He's always around 14 or higher in his career before this. So I do expect that to go back up with a better offense, and I do expect DJ Moore to bounce back nicely. Now, Chris Olave, I don't even know if we can say he can bounce back because it's not like he's ever been elite, right, in fantasy like we thought maybe he could be. He's still only 24 years old, though, 25 in June. Had a very injured year last year, played just 8 games. Wide receiver 55 in points per game, though, this past year. Wide receiver 22 in points per game in 2023. So he was a very usable wide receiver two years ago. But last year, I'll say going through his games, the 3 of the 4 games he had with Derek Carr, it really wasn't that bad. 81 receiving yards in 3 of those 4, 10 points, 17 points, 13 points. It wasn't like anything terrible. And then he had to play with some backups, and then he got injured. So what are your thoughts on Chris Olave moving forward?
Yeah, there were a lot of things going on. It seemed like Derek Carr had better chemistry with Rashid Shaheed. He was making all those big plays, remember, early in the season, and it kind of continued a little bit. And I don't know if they ever got on the same page because this new quarterback coming in and trying to just get everything together with Derek Carr. And I don't think it ever happened. And you didn't get a lot of chance in the new offense. Like they changed the offense. Now they're doing it again here. Again, it's going to be hard to know. I mean, Chris Olave was thinking about retirement with all the concussions and things he's had. So we'll see where he's at. And can he kind of reset that and get back to being kind of the clear number 1 on this team? And yeah, it's a shame because he has a lot of talent. I think those things haven't quite aligned for him with the health and the quarterback and all that stuff. So let's hope he has a talent to get back there. But let's say I'm just more invested into DJ Moore right now than Chris Olave. I don't really want to attach myself too much to the Saints beyond Alvin Kamara this year. I just think it's going to be a transition year with some lumps. So Chris Olave, I need to wait and see. I need to see how he's looking at practice. I need to see what Derek Carr is doing with him. I just need to see and put them back on my radar. But I know what I'm going to get from Kamara out of this offense. I do not know what I'm going to get from Olave.
I don't know either, but I do know that the Saints need him, right? Derek Carr needs to target him. So he could be a really sneaky value this year for sure. Now, what about Jalen Waddle? What has happened to him? Because the first 2 years in the league, wide receiver 13, wide receiver 7, and then it goes down a little bit. Wide receiver 34 in 2023, and then wide receiver 53 in points per game in 2024. By far his first year without 1,000 yards, only 2 touchdowns. He only had 83 targets. What was happening with Jalen Waddle last year? Can he bounce back? He's only 26 years old, and it's really just Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So I don't really understand why more targets weren't going his way. Is he going to be like a screaming value this year? Because I just don't really care to take him.
Yeah, he is very tough to even consider at this point. And part of it, I think this offense really got gun shy. If you look at it, after Tua went down, they were like, don't hurt Tua, don't hurt Tua, don't hurt Tua. Get the ball out quickly. And we're not going to have him sit back there and look for the big plays. And the problem is Waddle had some real competition in the short area passing game with 2 guys. Devon Achane was much more involved as a receiver, right? They used him. They realized, hey, get him in the open field. He can make things happen. And we know what happened with Jonnu Smith. Like, oh, here are these other dudes that are going to do something in the short passing game. And they really cut into what they're doing. And then they weren't even stretching the field with Tyreek Hill all that much. So this is a bit of a concern. What are they doing? Mike McDaniel, the shine is off there, right? I mean, he knows what he's doing, putting people in motion. Everything is great. We're loving this passing game. And then last year was just, you didn't want to do anything except get into Achane. And like if you had Jonnu Smith, you were really happy about that. But everything else was just disappointing in this offense. So I don't know. I think this is a kind of a prove it year again, a reprove it year for McDaniel, see what he can get. But Waddle, again, remember what he was before, like an extended handoff guy, right? You're talking about the 9 yards per reception or that DJ Moore had. This was his whole existence before the situation with Tyreek Hill. So I don't know. He's a possession receiver. He doesn't score a lot of touchdowns. He can make a few big plays, but this offense is not about big plays right now. So I think he's early on my do not draft list. I think he's going to be a bit inflated in drafts too.
Yeah, he's on my do not draft pretty much as well, unless he just falls pretty far. All right, let's jump over to quarterbacks, a couple of forgotten quarterbacks that haven't been talked about lately to finish up today's show right after we take a quick break.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
All right, we're back talking about the forgotten ones, the guys that don't get talked about enough during this time of the offseason. Getting to quarterbacks to finish up today's episode, we had to talk about Dak Prescott because I feel like he's been really forgotten about, right? Missed half of the season last year, and he's just not really that fun, exciting veteran. The Cowboys right now are not a fun, exciting offense, especially with the hire of Brian Schottenheimer. Like, just not a lot of inspiration going on here. But you know, he's had some good, really good fantasy seasons, but this past year, quarterback 22 in points per game in 2024, then quarterback 4 in points per game in 2023, quarterback 14 in 2022, quarterback 8 in 2021. It's like an every other year thing, you know? So is this his year to come back? My issue is I don't know if he has enough weapons, right? Now, maybe if they get Ashton Genty, this could open up things for Dak Prescott, but I was on the Dak Prescott train last year. I don't know if I am this year.
Yeah, I mean, guess who else forgets about Dak Prescott? The Cowboys. They forget about, hey, we need to do some things to help this dude. And they just lost Zach Martin at guard, so they have to try to replace and continue to keep that offensive line transition. They had Tyler Guyton. They've had Tyler Smith. So things have been changing up front as well for this team. So to get that protection back for Dak Prescott the way he was used to for all those years with Tyron Smith, back there, I mean, now you don't have Tyron Smith and Zach Martin, so you're trying to get that offensive line back in Dallas. So that's one thing they have to work on. And I'm surprised, right? Stephon Diggs has been out there. Their old friend Amari Cooper has been out there. Like, Keenan Allen has been out there. Like, why wouldn't they get any of these guys? I know they had Brandon Cooks last year, whatever. But they don't really have a number 2 for CeeDee Lamb that they can trust. Cooks has been hurt. Jalen Tolbert's only shown flashes. I don't get that. And then you had some shaky season from Jake Ferguson and the tight end. It didn't really give them all that much. And no running game. Like you said, they got to get that running game going. I hope this is not their answer, right? Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. Like, again, are you going to shortchange us with running backs? Like last year, it's okay. We'll just go back to Ezekiel Elliott, elevate Rico Dowdle. We've got a backfield. Like, I hope Williams and Sanders say, okay, we're going to go get a guard at number 12 or something right in the draft and say we're not going to get a running back even though Genty's staring at them. So Jerry Jones, a little bit of crisis here to get Dak Prescott the help he needs. And you're right. We went from Kellen Moore to Mike McCarthy calling plays. Schottenheimer, this is going in the wrong direction for a quarterback and an offense in general to produce. So remember, Schottenheimer was the guy behind the old let Russ cook thing. It didn't really work all that much. So I don't know if he's going to let Dak cook. I don't know. There's just so many things that we look at with the Cowboys that other than CeeDee Lamb, you get really nervous about, not just the passing game, but this entire offense.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like outside of CeeDee Lamb, I don't feel great about any of these guys. We'll see who they draft to go in the backfield, and maybe we'll feel good about them. Now, Jared Goff, he was a quarterback 7 last year in points per game at 19.1 points per game. And it got better as the year went on as well. From weeks 4 through the rest of the fantasy season, he averaged 21.6 points per game. That was the same amount as Jaden Daniels during that span. Now, what I'll say is obviously we know Ben Johnson's gone, right? So that's a big part of it. But also last year, going into last year, we're talking about how good his schedule was. Almost all of his games were in the dome last year. Even like so many road games just happened to be in a dome. Now you look at his road games for this year. He gets Chicago, Green Bay, Washington, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Kansas City. The only 2 road games that will be in a dome are Minnesota and the Rams. So, and those places I named that are outdoors, those are brutal places to play outdoors if it's cold, right? Chicago, Green Bay, Washington, Philly, Cincy, Baltimore, Kansas City. It's a lot of games you're going to be worried about for Jared Goff. He doesn't typically play well outside, especially in the cold. So I do think we're going to not only see a little bit of a downfall without Ben Johnson, but then also a downfall because of the schedule.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, you got to factor all these things. I mean, Jared Goff, that's what's really hard about these pocket passers, right? They don't have that built-in floor that you're looking for. It's really dependent on how many multiple touchdown games they can put up. Is there going to be some big 300-yard games? And he was extremely efficient last year, right? He was completing passes at a high rate. So you just don't peak that way in multiple seasons. I mean, the schedule is very different. And some of those teams you mentioned, also some tough defenses that you're looking at as well. I mean, if we're playing tough defense outside, I think Chicago's going to be improved there. I think Green Bay is a tough defense to look at. Philadelphia, we know. Kansas City can be tough, right, at times. So when you look at this, I mean, it's not the greatest schedule overall for Jared Goff. So, again, do I think he can still finish in the top 12? Yes. Is he going to be in the top 10? Probably not. So, again, maybe it's not top 12. Maybe it's like 12 to 14, 15 there, right? I could see that. Again, I don't know what his floor is. I think I know what his ceiling is. I think that was last year. So when we look at his floor, I'm a little concerned again because he's not the cheat code type quarterback. So we'll see. I mean, I don't think I'm going to be targeting these 2 guys, right? Dak Prescott, Jared Goff. No, I'm not going after these guys in drafts because they're not going to be good values. They're just going to be guys you add and you're going to hope for the best, where there's so many other upside quarterbacks you can take around them, like a Caleb Williams, like we mentioned before. And that's where I would go.
Yep. I am with you on all that. That is it for today's episode. I want to thank you all for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. We will be back tomorrow talking about more fantasy goodness. Give us that like, give us that subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye, y'all.